The legendary game Magical Explorer drops you into a tactical simulator where every match is like living school life for real. Then you and your rivals take turns charging into brutal dungeons and building characters from scratch. Sharpen your weapons, push yourself to become the city's top alchemist, and dive into that game where the freedom is huge and the content never runs out. He's glued to the computer screen, grinding for roots and leveling up like crazy, and he's ready to fire his data straight onto the leaderboard. Seeing Eroge on the monitor is always a sweet treat for him. He can't take his eyes off it as he stares at. The mirror gapes in shock at what it catches in the reflection, like something inside it just shifted for real. He suddenly clocked something wild about himself when he looked in the mirror. That reflection was truly him, rocking the earrings that scream, Takeo Ito, one of the people from MX Group. To prove this isn't some wild dream, he pinches his own arm, whips his gaze around the room, and swallows hard as doubts vanish. This world is basically the same magical playground as his old one. Then, right in the middle of it, he spots something that shouldn't be there. And the sudden outside noise snapped his attention instantly. Up on the roof, he spots a totally normal slice of the magical traveler world. An elf-eared woman strolling with a dog while an elf and two kids nearby grin like everything's perfectly fine. The land feels like home to him, and he can't help but grin because deep down, he knows he's finally landed in the world of MX. He's grinning with pure excitement at the chance to meet the game's heroines. Then it hits him fast. He jolts in disbelief because MX is basically a treasure trove of heroines and dangerously attractive women, even the ones who don't even have throats in the game. He realizes he's fallen into an Eroge, and he can't stop smiling, ready to dive in with them, buzzing with excitement while nerves spark in his chest. When he learns he's been swapped into his best friend's character in the game, despair crashes over him like a wrecking ball, and he's left staring at the screen like, what's happening to me? In Rhodes, the gap in how people treat the main character versus his friend is insane, night and day. He can't stop thinking about how the Eroge protagonists are basically unreal, absurdly perfect, so talented that even the tiniest task turns into proof of skill, while the heroine falls for them hard over some small kindness. The story keeps slipping from one lucky break to the next, always landing in the main character's favor. So yeah, the main character keeps winning, but the real question is, where does that leave the best friend? He's cursed with pure bad luck, never gets popular, girls won't so much as glance his way, and if he even looks like he's interested in another guy, the players flip into outrage, and that logic drives him straight into the next mess. It just cranks the suffering for his best friend even higher, because he finally gets why that guy's never got a shot with girls in the games. Some of them can't help turning into cupids, while others absolutely can't. The heroines get laughed at and brushed aside, and he's furious when that annoying guy snatches the main character's girlfriend, so furious he's venting on forums and support pages. In total despair, he drops to his knees, shaking in disbelief that he's been transformed into the main character's best friend, straight out of an Eroge. Staring at Takeo, he nods and admits, "You're not terrible," but then he realizes Kazuki Takeo is the kind of guy who just soaks up all the attention. He shows up like the typical best friend, all jokes, always tagging along beside the main hero. He knows everything about the heroines, spills every detail, and then, eventually, he finally sees. In the end, the main character finally won them all over. Even though Takeo looks like a heartthrob, he still acts like an absolute fool. And a total creep, blurting out disgusting comments about girls' bodies. Because of what he's done, everyone turns on him, and time after time his behavior gets him beaten to a pulp. With a pounding headache and a knot of worry in his chest, he shuts up the complaining and dives straight into plotting the next chapter of his life. When he spots the Academy of Magic's admission letter, he realizes the real story is only just kicking off, because the prologue starts the moment MX steps into view. Right in the middle of the ceremony, it hits him like a punch. He lives in an MX part the anime and the supplements never even showed. He's buzzing with excitement, finally getting to try something fresh, and even admits that somehow this whole transformation isn't as bad as he feared. With 2 weeks left before the entrance ceremony, he also knows the school where Takeo studies like the back of his hand. He stares in pure shock at the great Tsukuyomi Academy of Magic, an elite school where the main character and the rest of the crew train their powers. Once he realized he'd officially been pulled into this world, joy exploded in his chest, and he couldn't stop fantasizing about magic, the thing he'd always thought was incredible until it finally hit and panic came crashing down. which unlike the game didn't make him do anything except hit one button. He's got zero clue how magic works, and the panic hits hard because he's terrified they'll throw him out on day one. He decides to tear into Takekoto's room and hunt for clues, because there's no way he didn't dig into magic at some point. He's tearing through the room, but it's nowhere to be found. Those books are packed with nothing but useless scribbles. Takekoto wasn't even paying attention in class, and his notes are a total mess. Fuming, he can't believe someone that foolish even got into the academy. Then, as he keeps digging, he stumbles on Takekoto's newer notebook, and it's shockingly neat and well-organized, leaving him wondering if maybe he's changed his tune. Soon, he snatches the book he's sure is Takekoto's diary, and the moment he opens it, something inside grabs him hard, so he starts reading right away. He finally learns the truth about Takekoto's brutal past. His parents are gone, his mother's side cut him off, and the only family member he has left is his paternal grandmother. Stunned to find himself in the hospital with dementia, he reads the truth and finally grasps just how heavy and how dark Takekoto's life really was. He remembers that moment in the game when Takekoto sank after the heroine talked about her family, and now he finally realizes it wasn't some glitch at all. Because of Takekoto's buried past, he can't stop digging. He searches and stumbles on a book called ** Magic for Monkeys. He doesn't waste a second. He cracks it open right away, since it feels like the perfect start for what he's been trying to learn. He's locked in, reading for real, when he stumbles on the truth. Everything that breathes in the air is loaded with mana, and it's that mana that fuels magic, and then he clocks that the gap between normal. The gap between regular folks and wizards is straight up mana, so once this clicks, he finally gets the basics of how magic really works, and that's when it all starts to make sense because decides to try something simple and locks in. Then Suny gets hit with a weird tingling, like a mischievous tickle crawling across her skin, and it pulls her attention into the estate of Rei. He fires open his palm and light spills out, and just like that you see it, he's finally learned magic. He's buzzing with joy. Finally, he gets to use real magic, even if it's just. He starts using the simplest light spell, and then he's stunned that he can flip it on and off at will. Nothing's clear to him yet, but this new power hits like lightning, wild, unstoppable, and pure adrenaline, he remembers. In MX, magic comes in wild varieties: offense, defense, healing, support, and then you've got the truly bizarre stuff like meme magic and sexual magic, all the way down to the power of being someone's best friend. In the sector, he clocked it. Takekoto had way more mana than anyone else, and if he kept pushing, he could claw his way out of that failed role and finally become someone who has. He remembers how MX obsessed over dungeons, and that, if he gets strong enough, he can brute through their pull by slamming teleportation circles into place. He reckons if he truly masters the game, he can even uncover secret spots that never got shown, so he grins, and then he realizes he's not just pretending, he's fully trapped inside the game world for real. The dungeon might still be scary, but he's got a bigger advantage: his game knowledge, and after beating MX again and again, he finally knows exactly where every superpowered item is hidden. Takekoto had every powerful skill locked in, all the potential to reach the top, and with a deep grasp of the game plus a massive store of mana backing him up, he knew exactly what it would take to become the strongest. He finally gets how huge his edge really is, so determination surges through him, and he vows to go for it, fighting with everything he's got to become the strongest of them all. He dreams of becoming the strongest, but he knows the road ahead is packed with danger, because the most popular heroines are turned into freakishly overpowered monsters. Iori Hijiri is so ridiculously strong he can take down the Demon King by himself, and those dev favorite characters are so insanely broken that the journey itself barely even feels fair. He crushes even harder, fueled by pure determination, then declares his goal with full throttle energy. He's going to rise as the strongest of them all. Then he vows to go everywhere, through the dungeons, across flying castles, and all the way up to the Tree of the World, blazing his own path with zero limits. 2 weeks before the entrance ceremony, he dug up a nasty detail about the school fees, then flipped through Takekoto's diary, and his stomach sank, because it was all but certain he didn't have enough money. Just as he still hadn't cracked a solution, the doorbell blasted, and when he swung it open, he froze in pure shock at what stood there. He swung the door open and froze in shock when Marino Hanamura, the director of Tsukiyomi Academy of Magic, stood right there in front of him. She greets him with zero nerves, and he's stunned because a real character from Mexico is actually here, in the flesh. Shocked, he scrambles to figure out why the director of Tsukuyomi Magical Academy would show up in person. She's desperate to see him face to face, so when she confirms his name is Kazuki Takioto, she flashes a grin and pulls him in with, "Come on, let's go eat together." Right when he thinks he's safe, his world flips because there, staring him down, is Marino Hanamura, a powerhouse in magic and the director behind Tsukuyomi Magica. In the game, she didn't show up often. She popped in just to drop crucial advice into the main character's hands. He never dreamed he'd face her in person this soon. Marino quickly apologized for showing up out of nowhere, admitting that her sudden arrival could have totally thrown her in the spotlight. Right before she could even say her name, he erupted in panic, then shot out way too excitedly that he already knew her, blurted it like it was a fact, and tried to soothe her while dodging the whole misunderstanding. Plus, the page is basically a funny jab at ridiculous cliché tropes. In roguelike game plots, the host points out how a bunch of them invent supernatural or wildly unlikely situations just to pull off sensual scenes, and then backs it up with clear examples. It's all about families doing a secret swap. Neighboring households trade their sons and daughters, so the main character lands right in the middle of a full-blown harem. The way these games tell their story bends reality, warping everything into pure surreal chaos. For plot's sake, the hero gets a pleasant surprise. He's about to sit down for dinner with Marino-sem, a big deal from the game, and honestly, he admits he never would have guessed he'd get a meeting like this. He takes the stranger's invitation without hesitation, but one thought hits him hard: this is an Eroge world now. Still, since he knows Marino inside and out from the game, he falls into a calm, confident stride. He grins, ushers him outside, and suddenly the whole air feels electric with anticipation. Then Marino blurts out an apology for only managing to snag the best restaurant he could find, and that floors the main character because the place is insanely luxurious and he can't help thinking rich people might literally be from another world. And then the dish. What she served cost as much as his entire month of expenses, but he just shrugs it off like he's used to it, then beams and gratefully thanks her. Marina flashes a smug little smile and Takioto takes one bite of the meat. Boom, his face goes wide as the flavor hits him like a thunderclap, the taste exploding into something he never even dreamed existed. He starts bragging about his life like it's sacred, how that sauce is perfectly crafted and the meat's juices hit just right, claiming only people like him can ever access that kind of know-how, but Marino just grins and calls him straight-up foolish. Marino clocks just how over-the-moon Takioto is, so she dives in too, grinning as she digs in, still stunned by how amazing the food tastes. Takioto can't focus. She's completely struck by her, especially the lashes and that perfume, and she's seriously, unmistakably sexy. Marino takes a bite and lights up, gushing over how insanely good it tastes, while Takioto is. He watches her reaction and can't believe she's got an adult son. She looks way too young and gorgeous for that, and it's driving him crazy. He clocks her as a total Eroge heroine. Stunning woman with beauty that screams, young, somehow ageless, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Takioto is absolutely smitten with Marino, like he's landed in paradise, because he's finally seen up close the very character he's always worshipped in the game, and it brings back the moment he learned about. She had zero personal history, and he even bombarded the developers with support forms and surveys, begging for more info about her. Nothing ever came back. Meanwhile, Marino catches his stare and shoots an awkward question like, "Is something wrong?" Taketo's face says it all. He realizes how weird he acted in front of Marina, panics with an instant apology, and blurts out that he couldn't help it because she's basically a legend in the magical world. So when Marino blurts out, totally confused, "Everything okay?" she just stares back while he's still reeling, realizing, hey, she isn't only a character. On the screen, Marino stands there like he's real, and the moment the scene hits, hands brushing, Takioto freezes in total shock. Marino softly cups his hands and murmurs, "Don't worry," promising that from this day on, their bond will grow way closer. Takioto is totally thrown off. She can only focus on how unbelievably soft Marino's hands feel, while Marino just stares at her with intense seriousness. He grabs your hands tight and tells you straight to your face, "I've accepted you as my son." Takioto's jaw drops when Marino reveals she's his maternal kin. Her mom and his mom were cousins, and the moment he hears the whole story, it hits him like a tragedy he can't outrun. Marina lets him into the family without so much as a warning, desperate to get close right away, and with tears spilling down her face, she rushes in to apologize. Takioto freezes at this sudden twist, then, still smiling, thanks her, admitting that she's still just as kind as ever. Morno pulls Takyoto into her world, moving him in with her and her daughter because the house is, okay, it's crazy, but you'll see why. Right beside Tsukuyomi Academy of Magic, there are rooms ready. She tells him her daughter agreed to the plan too and then urges him, don't be shy. Takeo is stunned by the proposal, then the memory hits him. In the game world, he lived in a dorm right beside the main character, so this twist is totally different from the original story. The main character tells him Marino's daughter is already a big deal on her own, and Marino, stunned, blurts out, her name's Hatsumi Hanamura, an instructor at the academy. She's not just some background face, she's a crucial heroine in the game, and she hands the main character of the original story the exact skills they need to move forward. The main character freezes over the idea of moving in with Marina and her daughter, the same twist that happens in the original game, then starts to weigh everything in his head. Living with a mother and daughter is a rare shot he should take, and he knows it could shake up the whole main story, because in the original game Takyoto lived in a dorm, so he hesitates hard, terrified that changing things too much could blow everything up. The main character starts to doubt his just live my way choice because this new timeline is a total mystery to him, and he can't tell if breaking away from the game's plot is worth the risk. Early on, he's already clued in on every plot twist and the triggers that set them off, so he tiptoes around anything that could blow the timeline apart, even with all that extra time before the main story, knowing the prologue choices could wreck the entire narrative. The story kicks off the moment the main character wakes up. There's Marino Hanamura sitting there with his daughter Hatsumi, serving him a lavish breakfast like it's their finest victory. Marino's all smiles and warmth, while Hatsumi just nods and says, "Good morning," and he's instantly thrown off, not knowing how to turn down an offer that feels too perfect to refuse. Marino clocks his hesitation, cracks an apology, and assures him she never meant to pressure him at all, leaving the main character totally baffled. He's totally lost, spiraling over what to do next, so Morno steps in and says, "Good news, the dorm application deadline is still open, and you can crash with me and my dog for now." She says he's thrilled with the idea and agrees on the spot, but when she suggests trading numbers for later, he stalls for a second and lets slip that little pause, like something's being hinted. Maybe his phone broke or something, so when the main character freezes up, he blurts that he doesn't have one. He's torn the place apart, searched everywhere, and still can't find it. Marina's face twists with shock, eyes wide, breath caught in her throat, because the reality hits her like a brick and despair floods in. She froze in shock because she'd been convinced Takyoto had no phone at all, like a deep trauma had shut it out of his life, and on top of that, she's sure his parents were murdered. Right after the final bell rang, demons slammed into him, so that's why he never picks up the phone in the game, and why he loathes demons with a burning fury. Takeo stamp. The moment she hit those dramatic conclusions, the main character totally snapped, lost himself completely. He stormed into the room and announced, bold as brass, that he'd drained the school well because he was dying of thirst, then played it off like a total clown, leaving everyone staring in disbelief, especially with his tragic past hanging over him. One kid swore he was insane, while another muttered that he was just empty-headed. While the girl scrambles to figure out if he's really okay, Takyoto freezes, staring at the weight of it all, how brutal the life this character had, how much he had to become, and sympathy hits him hard. Meanwhile, Marina watches him in silence, thinking she wants to help his life get better, and she reassures him with a soft, "Don't worry." He tells her he scrapped his mobile plan to cut costs, and for the first time he feels calm, so he hands over his phone to her, and after she borrows it for a while, he's hit with relief all over again. At that exact moment, Marino exhales in relief, grinning with joy, because everything's okay, and just seeing her smile lights up his whole world again. Marino decides to surprise Takyoto with a brand new phone, because now they're officially a family and she wants to celebrate that moment big. They hit the store together and she picks the newest model for him, so when she pays for it, Takyoto's jaw drops, half stunned and half worried this kindness might be too much. Marina bids Takyoto goodbye after a great day, then tells him she's got a business trip to handle before she can finally leave. Marino shoves a massive stack of cash into his hands to pay for a full week, so Takyoto freezes, swearing it could last him a whole year. But Marino stays stone calm, already planning to leave him a card because she's convinced this money still won't cover what's coming. With his head still spinning, Takyoto says goodbye, totally stunned by how much she just gave him. Marino, all worried but stubborn, tells her he can call her anytime if he needs anything, like money rules don't apply to him. Then he drops the real bomb. He's in the orbit of the powerful Hanamura family now, and that connection carries serious weight. He's got his hands in magic, money, and politics, and for once he feels lucky, though the world doesn't quite match what he remembers from the game. Taekyodo refuses to blow his money just on daily life. He's slamming it into getting stronger, starting with weapons. Weapons, armor, magical treasures, he eats it all up, and since he knows the game inside out, plus he built his own data table, the real thrill hits. Can he push farther on his own when this world has 0 guides, 0 walkthroughs, and none of the usual hand-holding from the original game? 2 weeks before the story begins. Right before classes kick off at Tsukuyomi Academy of Magic, Taekyodo decides to push his training to the limit, because he knows once school starts, everything is about to go down. So he wastes no time, he's jumping straight into a skills test, ready to slam every event flag that pops up with the money already in hand. Fueled by pure drive, he takes that first step into his prep. Then Taekyodo storms into the Sabin store and freezes, because Wakoku looks like modern Japan down to the money, the seasons, and even the shops are the only real twist. It's the MI. In the next world, every race lives side by side and magic is real, and when he finally stumbles on what he was after, he goes wild. A magical instant noodle with tonkatsu, smashing his taste buds with an insane, unforgettable flavor. Taekwondo stocked up on a mountain of instant noodles, went all in on his magic training, and finally nailed the starting line, so yeah, he's absolutely over the moon. He lets loose a light spell, then dares to try something brand new, chasing something way more thrilling, because that's exactly what he lives for when it comes to this. True magic isn't about tricks at all, it's all mission magic, and Taekyodo is obsessed with learning offensive spells, the biggest, most wanted magic in the whole game. He's fully hooked on how the heroine's magic hits the crowd, so he decides he'll learn to cast it too, starting with the easiest spells if he has to, and he swears with his whole chest that he'll master it. Taekyodo refuses to back down and plunges headfirst into this magic, starting with the easiest spells, scrambling through his materials like his life depends on it, hunting for something even he can pull off. He snags the first spells, water, stream, and fireball, and soon he'll be grinning because now he can finally kick off his journey. With a grin, he picks light magic, mutters, "Too easy, go for it, Yoda," and readies his spell like he did before. He starts with the light, locks in his focus, gathers his mana, steadies his mind, and lets the magic spark from his imagination. He fires off devastating spells that hit with pure, crushing power. Hodo can't believe it, magic actually works and water blasts from his finger for real. He grins, then celebrates like he just pulled off the biggest win ever. They discover the water gun spell is a total lifesaver. Suny fires it up to water the garden, and the water savings hit home while the magic proves its practical power. Taekyodo. He's crushed, he swings his water gun with everything he's got, but the offensive magic barely scratches anything, and the moment it fails, doubt claws its way in. Maybe he's not cut out for water magic at all, and then he starts wondering whether even elemental magic, fire, wind, or earth would barely stand a chance against him. But the thought of mastering legendary magic hooks him hard, because in the Eroge world, something promising might be lurking there too, until Taekyodo crashes to the ground, shattered and furious, realizing that none of the magic he can use. He's forced to fight, and even clearing a simple dungeon feels like walking into suicide, so he clings to his dream of becoming the strongest, chasing it farther and farther away, and he can finally breathe easy knowing the MX world isn't pitch black, because in that kind of darkness he wouldn't even last. Turns out Taekyodo's packed with mana, but he just doesn't have a taste for offensive emission magic, the kind everyone's chasing, so most players figured he'd only be good for the first half of the game. But there's a special way to tap into his powers, one an experienced MX user could master, and then boom, you'd unlock his true potential. It's a tricky situation, and there was. He found a way to grow. Taekyodo just can't stop remembering the one detail that defined his look, that long red scarf. In the game, that cloak was built from special material that lets mana surge through you, and it's one of the biggest parts of a character's stats, so he figured that, if he wanted to use Taekyodo's power in the real world, he'd need that cloak. She decides to hunt down the magical fabric she needs to sew her shawl, because finding a ready-made one in the exact size is next to impossible, and she starts scouring for it, but soon. He stares at the ridiculous price tags, and even all the money Marino handed him still isn't enough. But then he spots a cheaper option, something spun from spider silk. Taekyodo finally found something that fits him perfectly, and for once something he can actually afford. He grabs 2 units of enchanting fabric, and when it shows up fast and smooth, he's blown away. He's supposed to arrive in just only an hour left, so while he waits, he flips through Magic for Monkeys and studies 2 ways to boost mana, one of them brand new to him, and that discovery lights up his mood. He tells them that training kicks off the second the fabric lands, then Taekyodo sprints out with the material he just bought, only to realize fast that something's not right. That long, loud presence drives him up the wall and grabs way too many eyes. People nearby start acting weird, and even a kid blurts out that there's some strange man hanging around, leaving him totally confused and feeling like he didn't belong. He storms off to find another training spot. Then Taekyodo tracks down a quieter place, shuts everything out, and fires a spell that toughens his body. He's buzzing with excitement, sprinting at full speed and pushing his body hard to get stronger. With his magical enhancement roaring, Taekyodo keeps sprinting to drill his abilities because right now he's locked in, level up, then grab the skills he needs. He wants to milk every drop from his massive mana stash, so he goes all in on enhancement and enchantment spells, just like the game, and he knows there are 2 ways to boost his mana. First, he boosts his level by scooping up magical particles, then Taekyodo snaps to the second way to crank up his mana until his magic is totally drained, so he decides to keep the enhancement and enchantment spells running non-stop while he sprints forward, then slaps his spells and enchantments onto his magic fabric and gasps when it turns as tough as iron, even after non-stop running and relentless use. Magic Taekyodo spots it right away. His mana isn't even close to depleted, and the shock hits hard as he realizes just how far he can push, thrilled by what leveling up might unlock next. He spices his enchantments with water and fire, then fires up those powers on purpose, pushing himself to drain more mana and see exactly what he's capable of. Then Taekyodo fires up his stall, third hand on the right, fourth on the left, and with total confidence, he declares those are the secret keys to his close quarters combat style, buzzing with excitement. Taekyodo's new fighting style has him buzzing. He's totally at ease with the third and fourth hands and says he's already learned to move them like second nature, because the narrator points out that in the original game those skills weren't yours by default, and Taekyodo only kept dodging the truth until he finally forced himself to activate them. Taekyodo can. Taekyodo keeps pushing through training, desperate to unlock new powers before he has to move to the Hanamura family's house, and after 5 straight hours of sprinting and hammering enhancement magic, he finally slows down and realizes that he doesn't even scratch the surface. His mana doesn't just hold up, it barely feels the drain. After he scrambled the training and pushed it too far, his energy wouldn't quit. Then he spun into a distant field, totally confused and out of his depth. Taekyodo realizes training is useless if he doesn't know the limits of his mana. He's totally useless, so he snaps and decides he needs a magical item to probe his stats, especially the hidden attributes, and while he munches and reads, he commits to it without hesitation. To get this right, you've got to start from scratch, because beyond the usual stats, you uncover the secret traits: endurance, magic, resistance, and stealth. And there's way more. Despite all his wins, he still seethes because magic remains maddeningly vague and badly documented. He finally realizes he has to track down someone who actually wields magic, and figures out exactly who he should go to. Kyoto claims Marino-san is a monster among specialists, someone who single-handedly wiped out an S-rank beast, and then goes, "I can't find a better magic teacher than him." He's nervous as hell because the mere thought of asking Marino for Taekyodo lessons makes his stomach drop. He even calls her the Tsukuyomi witch, and that label feels downright absurd to him. He's sure she's buried under work, so he storms off to train solo. Then, right at the end, his magic backfires and leaves him burned. A little later, Taekyodo snaps to it. After days of training, he's still standing there, stuck on the same moves. Disappointment hits hard as he realizes he's just repeating motions, doomed to make no real progress alone. Without the power to turn his gaming knowledge into results, he feels light years away from being the strongest. Then bam, he drops his pricey magical gear, shatters his comm, and makes a total mess everywhere. Taekyodo finally locks eyes with Marino-san. She barrels over the moment she senses a huge surge of mana nearby, then beams at him for training magic, proud as punch and clearly admiring him. He's stunned and all but breathless with relief when she shows up, and right as the moment clicks, he locks eyes with Marino. She's smiling, wide open, and Taekyodo finally finds his nerve and drops to one knee without hesitation. He drops to the ground and screams for his life, "Please stay with me," and that plea hits Marino like a punch, freezing her in pure shock. He's totally stunned by Taekyoto's sudden confession, and for a split second his brain panics, thinking Taekyoto's confessing love to him. But he wasted no time and blurted that all he wanted was her help, just magical training. Marino. Relief floods her face as she smiles, tells him she'll be happy to help, and reminds him they're family now. Taekyoto's so grateful he practically beams, and she lightly scolds him for. Taekyoto tells Marino, "I train my cloak to fly freely when I run, never letting it hit the ground, and I keep my enchantment magic running the whole time. Even when he's not training, it still works." Marino can't believe he's keeping the spell going for 10 full hours straight, and it doesn't drain his mana one bit. He declares he wants to hold the magic for 24 hours, and Marino's face lights up with excitement, reacting to his. Marino lights up at the idea of Taekyoto keeping that cloak enchanted nonstop, praising it like a game changer, because it has tons of uses and can even boost their mana reserves. Taekyoto feels a rush of relief. The book was right, and when Marino asks to touch the shawl, he doesn't hesitate. She leans in, eyes searching close up, and the moment she gets nearer, her heart starts pounding, nerves spilling out in plain sight. The moment Marino's fingers brush the enchanted palantir Taekyoto, a brutal surge of mana slams into him, and he can't help but gasp at just how terrifyingly powerful that spell is. Even after all these years, she admits that his magic might outshine her spells, and that confession hits like a punch. Taekyoto is stunned by the praise and can't wrap his head around being better than her, yet he knows in his gut, if he wants to become the strongest, he'll have to rise past people like Marino. Kyoto's mana is absurd, more than double what the heroines burn through every time they sling their big spells, and that crazy reserve drives everything he does. Every time he throws a move, mana drains out of him and training leaves him gasping, so he goes to Marino to sharpen his control. Marino nods and scrambles into action, flicking his enchanted cloaks just to be sure he's getting every detail right. Then Taekyoto bolts forward, finally settling his nerves as he takes off. He whips the enchanted scarves with pinpoint control, snapping them into sharp curves, unleashing fast attacks, and driving each move with pure, unstoppable force. Marino watches stunned and awestruck as he weaves the magic in motion. Marino clocked the look on Taekyoto's face and said he's been grinding for years. Now's the time to stop doubting himself and turn that kiosk into a. He can't help but wonder if all that brutal training has only made him way too rigid, and if he's stubbornly refusing to change his methods enough. He realizes his skills can unlock way more doors, and that's exactly why he's dying to jump into something brand new. Taekyoto unleashes the power of magic, and with it, he transforms his own story. Marina stares at the fan-shaped shield and points out that shields don't all have the same shape, then asks Taekyoto if he had a specific design in mind from the start. Taekyoto freezes, shocked, and admits he built it more on pure instinct than any real plan, and Marina. Yodo's shield doesn't stand a chance. One hard hit slams it down like it's nothing, and she explains why. The fan's shape can't take repeated strikes in the same spot, and it doesn't spread that force away. The force is solid, so she tells Taekyo to picture a super detailed shield, the exact shape that deflects and cushions every hit he knows is coming, and from that moment he starts locking in on it. This time, Taekyoto finally forges a brand new shield, and it actually works. That curved shape drinks up every hit like it's nothing. Marino's jaw drops. She hails the result and says it'll be a game changer in battle. Then he beams and thanks her for saving the day. And he finally gets it. This shield type is basically the same impact dispersing stuff he's seen a million times in games. Taekyoto practically blurts out that the third and fourth hands don't come with ordinary attack powers. They're flexible, all-purpose abilities, and once he masters them, he can split them apart. The stones harden into steel-sharp shields. Taekyoto declares he'll get even stronger, and Marino shoots back with a grin that he's just a hardworking guy who will breeze through even the Academy dungeon's lowest floors with those powers. Still, Taekyoto gets jittery the moment she tells him that after classes begin, he'll be able to pick the right team members, and he's terrified he won't know how to handle it, so he steels himself and realizes he has to prepare. And this time, the carriage thunders to a stop before a breathtaking mansion, where a butler waits in the hall, ready to announce them. He steps up to Princess Ludi with respect, tells her the journey is finally ready, then offers to help right at her door. Princess Ludi answers the order with a crisp, refined thank you, pure nobility in every word. Then she steps out of the bath and strolls on, calm as a queen through the In the hall, they slap a button to silence the noise, stride in to help her dress, then wrap her up with careful, expert hands. Scene by scene, the final touches come together, and Ludi steps out fully dressed in an elegant gown with jewelry that shines, all because everyone treated her role with real respect. Princess Ludovina stands already dressed and waiting, peering from the top balcony toward the horizon as she whispers that her time has finally arrived. Then she glides through the halls with her ladies, and the whole castle greets her with full respect. She's been officially crowned as the second princess of the Treville Empire, Ludovine Marie-Ange de la Treville, and the moment she spots Clarisse, her face lights up and she calls out warmly like they've always been close, no matter the crown. And she takes Clarisse's hands and tells her, clear as day, that she has nothing to fear, because she trusts her completely. Clarisse the maid beams at the princess and vows, right there beside the luggage where heavy armor and a shield stand ready, that she'll guard her no matter what hits them. Ludovine, nicknamed Ludi, stands there cool as ice, watching everything with a tiny, smug smile, and from the start the game treats her like a main event. She's on the cover, the developers clearly adore her, and that pretty much screams strong heroine. She's Emperor Treville's second daughter from the Elven lands, and Ludovine's cold stare and nasty verbal blows are the reason players coined the Ludi syndrome, because she treats the main character like trash and chews down every man she meets. Her rep with Eroge players was absolutely massive. Once someone finally earned her trust, she flipped and became sweet, caring, and fiercely devoted, a total 180 from that cold, distant vibe she started with. He snaps shut his last box, grins about the week before classes hit, proudly says he already sent everything he needed ahead of time, and he's fully geared up for this new chapter. Marino-san pulls up in her car and Takioto can't help but grin. She's letting him move in with her, even if it's just a trial run. Then, on the drive, she winks and suggests a little detour, swearing he'll love it, and when they finally roll into the city, Takioto is totally blown away. The city blew his mind with an insane stash of magical items and rare weapons for sale, like mithril, calcum, and those wild Heikui Iroquois, things he'd never even laid eyes on before. Marino breaks it down. He's seen this place up close, because the city has a magical academy asterisk and an airport, so the choices here are way bigger than anywhere else. Then she leans in and asks what weapon he wants to test, and he pauses to think since he's already got experience with both the academy and the airport. So the second she asks again, he finally starts to settle on his pick. When the question popped up, the top choice was brutally simple. Slam 4 shields on Takioto's back, then use the third and fourth hand abilities to turn him into an unbreakable defensive wall. Even though Takioto can stomp opponents like a tank, he's bored and demands a real, full-force fight. Only trouble is, he doesn't have the massive weapons everyone else is rocking, so once the game hits the halfway point and the heroines start showing off their standout gear and abilities, his attacks get crushed. Because everyone else kept leveling up into monsters with stronger abilities, Takioto got shoved aside, left out of the main crew, and dumped on recon missions at the Magical Tools Laboratory. While better characters stole his spot, people labeled him weak. His annoying habits made players ditch him completely, and now the game basically treats him like a joke, and he still hasn't even picked a weapon. But he's convinced the perfect close-range weapon is the real deal, so Morno pushes him to grind non-stop, training attack and defense until he finally masters what he's got. Then she whips out magical fabric and sews a scarf and a shawl that fit like a dream. Takioto's jaw drops and he's grateful to the core. Then they dive straight into preparations. Head over to the nearby Hanamura house. Marino grabs Takioto and says something unexpected just blew up at work and she needs him too. He tells her he'll be fine on his own for a bit and will come back later. Then she hands him a brochure for the Hanamura hotel, her family's place, promising he'll be welcomed with open arms and that they'll see each other again soon. Takioto nods, and when he spots the hotel's name, he can't hide his shock. He remembers his mom was a Hanamura too, but she's basically a mystery to him. Then Takioto storms into the Hanamura hotel and gets completely mesmerized by the show. He's left speechless by how massive the building is. Everything screams grandeur, and the moment he takes it in, he realizes the Hanamura group is the real deal, brutally powerful. Step into the lobby and the sheer luxury hooks him even harder, so he grabs the waiting time to study magic, while Takioto stays locked in his hotel room absorbed in the same thing. A massive blast erupts in the building's annex, sparks chaos everywhere, and people lose their minds with panic. Then the rest just breaks apart in impulse. Chloe starts pushing everyone towards safety, but the second Takioto realizes his phone's vanished in the chaos, panic hits hard, and he bolts to get out too. Right away, Takioto lunges for his phone to call Marino, but it's smashed to pieces. As he scrambles for a move, 3 slick men in suits step into view, looking way too suspicious. And a creeping suspicion hits them hard. Maybe they're tied to that explosion, so they just quietly watch as they step into the elevator, and before long Takioto hears a voice he recognizes, blasting through the air. Out in the distance, something snaps his focus. Takioto's eyes widen when he spots Ludi, one of the game's main characters, standing right in front of him because he never thought he'd see her here, and the look on her face is all business, serious and dead set on her goal. She points straight at a group of men and snaps that they've been plotting to betray her since day one, while her armed maid and butler stand there, silent and ready to strike. Takito's heart drops because the men in black are enemies on Ludi's path in the game, and he's got to stay calm even though the danger is screaming. Ludi fires back, saying she can't even figure out what they're thinking. She's lost in thought, but she snaps a warning. There's no escaping this because her loyal servants, Aurelian and Claris, are right there. Takioto clocks the moment as a turning point in Ludi's journey, and then he notices the real truth too. She's scared of men, a fear she shares with a lot of people. Something in her sparked this fear. Takioto remembered Ludi's past in the game. She'd been betrayed by someone she trusted, and as her journey keeps going, the truth slowly explodes into view. At the start, the whole story took a hit, lost its innocence right away, so players tore into it, and that backlash forced the developers to rewrite its past, and that betrayal was enough to light a fire under her fear of people. And Takioto, he realizes he's standing right where this event is unfolding in the game. He only had rumors and scraps of info, but now he's all confidence. Betrayal is about to ignite. The men turn savage and Sir Ludi swings in and smashes one of them hard. A bandit raises a gun and everything detonates in seconds, right as the lackey Aurelian shoots up his hand to throw a protective spell, while the maids crowd in to guard Ludi as she confiscates everything in sight. They snapped back in refusal, and right then the attack exploded on them because the order is crystal clear. Protect Princess Ludi no matter what. Aurelian slings magic at Claris and in the blink of an eye, smashes her to the ground. Ludi barrels up to her, stunned and still reeling from the betrayal, while Claris, hurt and pinned in place, trembles through the princess's crushing, disappointed words. Ludi can't believe someone who served that family for years would flip like this, so she's digging for the truth behind the betrayal, thinking Claris must have her own reason. But Aurelian loathes her, screams that she's naive, then slams her to the ground, pins her there with brutal force and presses a gun to her head, ready to end her life. Ludi gets pinned in place as Aurelian bears his cruel plan, saying just killing her would be boring. She's boxed in, staring in disbelief, and despair crashes down on her like a nightmare. She screamed for help while he and his accomplices pinned her to the ground, right in the middle of her darkest, most hopeless moment. Just when it looks grim, an unexpected strike bursts in and smashes one of the kidnappers to the ground, right as the people get saved. A marauder bursts in, flares up with enhancement magic, and wipes out the enemy in seconds. Aurelian clocks the magic's style but can't pin down who the stranger is, while Ludi stays armed and ready for whatever comes next. The attackers gasp, then fire to stop the stranger, until Takio drops in from a hooded shadow, steadies Ludi, promises he'll never hurt her, and throws himself between the shots and the wounded Claris. Takio steps in where Marino would have saved Ludi, because when he can't reach her at all, he snaps into action and swears he'll do everything in his power to protect the heroine he loves. Ludi's shaking from what just happened, and Takio clocks she's barely holding herself together, so he steps in to shield her, and when the enemies demand the deaths of all three, Takio moves to strike first. He kicks the third and fourth hands into action, spinning barriers snap into place, buying them precious time, and then he does it again. Back in Ludi, he couldn't stop thinking about how she'd always been his favorite character. Then he finally learned her full name, jammed to her song, tried every possible route, and got knocked emotionally by her ending again and again. The hero snaps to the truth. Ludi's frozen in shock and he has to fend for himself right now, wrapping in a magical cloak for protection, but it blocks his view so he can't track a single enemy move. As the flames roar wider and the enemies close in, he finally understands one terrifying truth: no matter what he does, they'll corner him. To buy himself some breathing room, he snaps his abilities on third hand and fourth hand. He's gearing up to pull off his plan, and he tells everyone straight up that Ludi is in real danger. Even when exhaustion weighs him down, he dives straight into danger and begs the injured girl to help him. She claims she can fire off protective magic, all while playing dead. Then he whips around to Luda and tells her she's got to act too. She has to ignite her mana just for a blink of time, while the main character leans on Ludi to yell Aegis as bait because the real plan is about. The spell she has to cast is basic, pure, simple light magic, and he tells her she won't need finesse at all, just yell it out to fool everyone. Enemies now they've got 10 seconds to move, and he's swearing he'll handle the rest. Ludi fires up her mana the instant T hits, slamming a countdown into place and blasting light magic that catches the enemies off guard. Then that chaos gives the defense just enough time to kick in. Ludi catches the opponent off balance, then screams the command for the Aegis, slams protective magic into place, and drives the main character across the screen to the next angle. She clings on as the magical shield snaps every enemy strike aside, carving out a clear escape route, and when the men in black spot it, they scream to zero in on Treffle, totally brushing off the boy who. Ludi is sprinting for her life and the hero clocks it. Those enemies are locked onto her alone, so he seizes the opening and blasts them with a lightning-fast surprise attack. Ludi follows the plan to the letter. He shouts for light, blasts out blinding magic that turns the enemies into stunned shadows, and the hero spots the opening and dives straight into the heart of the chaos. The main character unleashes light magic like a weapon, then rockets straight into the enemies. He hammers the enemies again and again right through their attempts to react, then snaps his enchantment into place, toughening his hand so his power spikes, and with that final crushing. He slammed the enemy leader to the ground, wiping out the fight with one brutal strike. Then the protagonist surged through the rest of the enemy group like a storm, and the fabric he'd used in the plan slowly. He drops in hard, then springs back up like a wall while the crowd erupts in joy, because he snaps out immobilization magic and locks everyone in place, wiping out the threat for good. The main character checks that the enemies are totally frozen in place, declares the route to Luda finally safe, and can't believe he wiped every last one of them out solo. She tears up and thanks him for saving her, and the moment he hears it, shyness hits him hard. Then he can't help thinking how sweet she is as Morno bolts into a sprint. She exhales in relief and tells Kasutsuki she heard about the hotel attack. Thankfully, he's okay. He rushes to apologize for scaring her and she cuts him off. Don't take risks like that again. Kasuka learns that the girl he saved, Ludi, is actually Emperor Trefalo's daughter and she'll be attending the same school as him. Marino then reveals that Ludi and her maid want to make an official introduction, so Kasuka feigns shock like, no way, but his nerves explode because he fears they'll drag him into taking the blame for everything that went down. So when Ludi and Claris thank Kasuda with polite smiles for the rescue, he's left totally baffled and blurts out desperate apologies. After everything that went down, Ludi flashes a smug smile and needles him. Did he really mean to mess it up, or was it all an accident? Then she hands him a letter of thanks from the Emperor himself, and Kasuka exhales in relief. Yet Ludi's non-stop, sugary sweet charm leaves him quietly on edge. Claris snaps that the Church of the Evil Lord just struck in its latest attack, and she warns you the enemy is still lurking right here. Ludi's academy might be in serious trouble, because whispers say a spy has slipped inside, and Kasuka realizes he's already twisted the original game's story out of its track, so he's left wondering what chaos hits next. Morno swears the church has always guarded his family, so now he's stuck in the line of fire. Then Clara declares that saving Princess Ludi will put Kasuka in the spotlight. They'll treat her like a problem they have to crush, and danger will close in fast. She makes it crystal clear that if anything goes wrong, her job is to keep Ludi safe, but she's not willing to abandon Kasuka either. She admits everything's gotten messy now and warns that if Clara splits her forces, she can't promise both sides will make it. Ludi hangs on every word. Morno, stunned everyone, just invited Ludi to move in with them, like the situation wasn't terrifying enough, while Ludi gapes in shock. And they're totally at a loss. Kasuka panics the second he hears the idea. Claris is thrilled by the chance, and Marino just keeps that calm, confident smile as he promises he'll dig into it. Kasuki snaps into panic at the idea of sharing a roof with Lyad, but Marino steps in fast, saying this is the only way to keep both of them safe and that he'll handle it. Kasuke finds himself with Hatsumi, and it instantly steadies Claris. Claris and Marino even act like they've known each other forever, and that totally throws Kasuke for a loop. In Lari's comments, she credits Hatsumi for teaching her the basics of magic, and Ludi confirms it. She says she spoke with her father, treats the offer like a sacred honor. Then Morno practically erupts with excitement as he hears the news. Everyone's sure Ludi and Claris will team up with the group a few days before classes kick off, and Kasuka is convinced Ludi showed up in the game later because of the very same event. But now everything's changed and they finally get to go to school together. Kasuka's grinning because he'll be living with. Marino keeps insisting that she and her maid, and both of them, too, have to get along, with zero hostility between them. During their joint stroll, it hits him hard. He suddenly realizes he has no clue how much his choices ripple through the world. He spots a bunch of major characters and heroines way earlier than the game ever promised, plus new scenes and twists he's never seen before, and his stomach drops as he thinks, wait, Kasuke? He spots a new girl who grips her sword like it's destiny, eyes blazing with determination, and in his head, he's already praying he'll meet more heroines like her too. The appearance of this new one. He hints that the world keeps stretching past what he ever knew from the game, and the narrator jumps in, saying rogues are a pricey obsession because games can cost from. Players panic over money and tangled relationships, while the game's main characters race to figure out the best way to swoop in on a girl. Once the money mess is solved, the real headache hits. You've got to pick which heroine to chase, even if you never touch the game, and you can only go with the one that grabs you the hardest. Even if each store's exclusive bonuses sound tempting, the character you fall for in the demo can end up feeling totally different in the full game, so it stings when your hype doesn't match reality, and sometimes one route hits so hard you can't even bring yourself to try the rest. And it's those games that you'll never forget because every character's fate is twisted in its own way. Every power feels one of a kind, like Kasuka Kyoto, one of those rare cases. Kasuka is scrambling to adjust to their new home, but the air between him and Hatsumi crackles with tension. Even though he finds her jaw-droppingly beautiful, he can't read a single thought in her head. Hatsumi, the instructor at Tsukuyomi Academy of Magic, still remains. Hatsumi keeps her mouth shut while Kasuka barrels in, introducing himself and trying to crack the ice with pure energy, yet no matter what he says, Hatsumi stays cold and completely uninterested. Dead silence, so tense it feels like the air is crushing him, and he finally gets it. His energy doesn't fit her at all, like oil and water refusing to mix. He feels so raw and uneasy that he finally gets why that game character chose to live in a dorm. Every half-baked joke falls flat, and the silence just presses harder and harder. Tension crackles in the air. Marino is busy cooking up a special dinner to celebrate the start of their brand new life in that house, and Kasuka can't take his eyes off the meal, absolutely captivated, visibly touched. She tells everyone to pile their plates high because there's more than enough to go around, and just like that, the whole vibe flips, filling the room with warmth, smiles, and pure joy thanks to her move. Kasuka lights up and raves that this is the best food he's ever tasted. Marino's cheeks flare as she beams at the praise, and Hatsumi just quietly keeps eating while the moment hangs in the air. Then Kasuka's face lights up until he realizes he's actually chewing down on a horned monster rabbit, and Marino grins, explaining she picked the kind of stuff he'd love, then stacked the menu with Hatsumi's favorite dishes too. When Kasuka finally meets the source, it hits him. Ever since he landed in this world, weird stuff has been happening to him non-stop. He blurts out a sincere thank you, and his relief crashes in full force after Marino explains that she already. Hatsumi spilled his whole situation. Marino lit him up with praise for how hard he's pushing. Kasuka stepped in and asked Hatsumi to treat him well. Then Marino finally showed interest, bluntly asking why he's training magic so ferociously. Maria fires back that she's all in on magic training because she has to be ready the second classes begin, and Morno immediately points out that the house there is already perfect for the plan. There's a library, labs for charms, and even a waterfall waiting nearby. And just as Marino starts getting swallowed up by the idea, Marina gets an urgent call, has to bolt out immediately, squeezes in a rushed goodbye, and begs them to let her call back. Hatsumi gets asked to tour Kasuki's house and act like his good, older sister, and the shock hits her hard as she starts thinking, why me? As Kasuka spirals over Marino walking out, he blurts out that she's his support, and his nerves hit full blast. Hatsumi snaps, I'll do it, and Marino shoots back a promise to finish fast. Then Hatsumi looks Kasuke in the eye, says his name, and hits him with a shocking intro. She ushers Chan through the house, and he can't stop staring because her attitude flips so fast. Yet when she finally talks to him, relief hits him like a wave. After she leads him through his room and wraps up the quick tour, Kasuka beams and gushes about the house, thrilled by the thought of living together. Then Hatsumi shows him her own room and introduces him to her mom's, and that one hits him like a shock. She gushes that Marino-san is so stunning you'd swear he's a student, then slams the truth, she's way older, and straight up asks him if he's into older women. The vibe snapped tense when Hatsumi casually asked if Kasuka was here to become her new father, knocking him completely speechless, while he flashed back to Hatsumi's dad, Marino-san's husband. They say he was killed, but he insists. Marino-san fits him perfectly, like the whole mess is straight out of the game Eroge. After her father's death, Hatsumi picks up his unfinished research and continues it, and it's all posted on the official developer's website. A blog for the game went live, and somehow it started with a crazy, deep backstory until the project managers ripped it all out, line by line. After the fight at home, Kasuka can't stop staring at her own weakness. Even as a mere supporting character in the game, he refuses to get beaten by the original main hero, and Iori knows exactly what he needs, an ability that sharpens his combat perception. And Torai starts eyeing the study of clairvoyance, the inner eye, but he won't crack it open until way later in the story. After realizing how badly he falters in long-distance fights, Kasuka steels himself. There's no way he's going to waste this chance. He's determined to bring it all together, because he remembers Hanamura's house is the perfect spot to train magic and get totally captivated. Tell Hatsumi to let you borrow the space magic book he's been dying to study for ages. Hatsumi locks eyes with Kasuka Kobli and snaps no, turning down his request, and she lays it out that he's careful with her like he never is with her mother. Then that whole difference hits a nerve, annoying her so badly it even shocks her. Kasuka hears her tell him to stop being so formal, and he scrambles to defend himself, saying he was only doing what Marino ordered, yet. But Hatsumi won't back down. She demands he treats them all the same, then marches up to Kasuka and orders with a playful grin, "Be gentler and call me Oni-chan." Flustered, he hesitates and blurts that it's kind of awkward, then decides to call her Katsumain-san. Though it's not quite what she wanted, she still agrees as long as he keeps the name. Masuka's shoulders finally drop and she follows her into the library, still wary because that character feels like a total wild card. Masuka stared at the gigantic library inside the house, eyes wide, and couldn't help but blurt out excited praise. He snaps that a normal house should never hold anything that fancy, and Hatsumi says he can read every book inside, freaking him out even more, so he blurts, "Wait, is there nothing important here at all?" There's research data piled up, but she just shrugs with an A, like it's nothing. Meanwhile, Kasuka can't wait to drill mana control in practice, and he asks Hatsumi if she knows any books on spatial magic. She says yeah, but warns him there aren't any truly important ones in that category. Still, that spark lights up inside him. He's ready to start learning right now, stunned by those magical hands that delivered the books, and he can't stop getting more and more captivated. Sumi hands Kasuka a book, pushes it for studying spatial magic, swears she'll dive into the same field too, and tells him to ask anything, while Kasuka just stands there, stunned. He loves how she pays attention, but she's so hard to read that it sparks his curiosity, so he digs in and asks about her time at Tsukuyomi Academy of Magic, and Hatsumi starts to explain, even though At Tsukuyomi Academy, she didn't waste time making friends. She was convinced it was the perfect battleground for anyone hungry for knowledge and power. He can't believe how many incredible people are packed in there, and the academy ramps things up even more with extra classes that push your level higher, teaching deadly offensive spells and other top-tier magic. Kasuka's hungry for advanced studies, but he's honest, his body can't handle magic, not even a little. Hatsumi steps in, ready to teach him because she knows exactly how, yet Kasuka fears that with her help he still won't ever master it, eventually. In the end, he decides to lock in on hard training and dungeon dives, no distractions. Kasuka can't stop thinking. Before class even starts, he's already grinding, toughening his body, pumping up his mana, and drilling long-range combat like it's second nature. And living with Hatsumi and Marino is a total win, because he's getting real magic lessons from a beautiful mom and her daughter. Kusuka asks if he can head to the nearest waterfall, and Hatsumi tells him her mom said it was fine to roam, so Kusuka grins and sprints off, promising he'll be back. At night, he realizes something big. Unlike the dorm in the game, here he can use the facilities without a curfew, which makes it the perfect playground for hunting fresh spots, and Kasuka can't wait as he sprints to the waterfall, remembering that in the game, a certain girl dragged the main hero to that place, and even when he wasn't sure she'd show up, his excitement still exploded. Because he'd always trusted her the most, never once kicked her off the team, and leaned on her to crush even the deadliest bosses. She was the one who mattered most. For him, Kasuga finally finds Yakina Mizumari by the waterfall, and the moment he sees her, joy slams into his chest because she's the hero he's been desperate to meet. Yukine, one of the great. In the game, MX3 squares up with a serious face as she ties her hair, and Kasuga practically bursts with excitement, yelling for her and staring, totally stunned by how good she looks. Yukine trains by herself, sword in hand, hacking precise, thunderstrong strikes as the waterfall roars behind her. This just proves in the loudest possible way that it really does belong in the big three. He can barely process it. Legendary Yukine is right there in front of him, up close enough to feel it. Before the waterfall, Yukine launches a crushing technique, her aura tight as a drawn blade, and every slash lands fast and exact, proof she's got the sword mastered. Kasuga stares in awe, locked onto the warrior he'd worshipped in the game. Then Yukine finishes the strike under the waterfall and smoothly slides his sword back into its sheath like it's effortless. The bubble finally releases the water to flow freely again. She turns back with a calm, quiet stare while Kasuga's jaw drops in shock, but he holds himself back even as excitement crackles in him. Her presence crushes the air around him, panic spikes, and he bolts with his heart hammering like crazy. Kasuga can't believe what he's seeing as Yukine tears forward with lightning speed, and he can't even match her Naginata moves. He swears nothing in the game even comes close to what he's witnessed in real life, and he's so captivated he can't stop wondering how she fights like that. Then he vows to level up to that same height someday. Tsuka's mind races as he tries to figure out how to survive this kind of speed. Either he'll outdash the enemy, or he'll rip his scarf into a giant shield. Still, with no clear answer in sight, he knows. Kasuga has to find a new way to deal with this chaos. Then the real obsession hits. He's set on sharpening his reflexes with a scarf so he can snap into action against an enemy moving at full speed, and he knows that boosting his vision and learning fresh skills might be the key. Spurred by Yukine, he snaps that he's determined to get stronger fast. Then Kasuga races back home grinning after training, ready to push even harder in the days ahead, and yeah, he's completely caked in. He decides to bolt into a quick shower, then rushes back home, only to find Marino still nowhere, and now he's pacing, wondering if Hatsumi's still stuck at work. Next morning, Marino barges into Kasuki's room with a warm grin, says good morning, and softly asks if he slept well, showing that same loving care and tenderness she always has. Kasuga jumps out of bed early and beams at Marino, shouting a cheerful good morning, as he praises him for waking up so soon, unlike her daughter, who's still sound asleep. She's out cold and she won't stir until someone calls her name, while Marino promises that breakfast will be waiting the moment he gets back. Then Kasuga slips out, determined to jog a little before the day even starts. Masuka used the quiet to train like crazy, drilling every move with razor-sharp focus, and now he's buzzing with pure excitement. Sneaking by unnoticed, he smirks to himself, sure that if he keeps pushing day after day, those non-stop efforts will finally sharpen his skills. Kasuga unlocks a game-changing power, the Eye of the Mind. In this game, they treat him like a walking cheat code. He boosts evasion, cranks up critical hit odds, and lets him spot enemy moves before they even strike. For him, it's the perfect tool, helping him sew through his vision problems and keep the fabric work going. That wall could mean life or death in advanced combat, so Kasuga nearly jumped out of his skin when Yukine Mizumari suddenly startled him. She steps up with a calm, confident smile and tells everyone, "I'm a student at Tsukui." Magical Academy throws praise at Kasuga for how hard he trained, way before anyone else even thought to start. Tsuka beams at Yukine and introduces himself, telling him, straight up, that he's about to enter the academy. Spring is here and he can barely wrap his head around it. He's finally talking to her face to face. Yukine clocks his excitement instantly, keeps her voice calm and polite, and tells him the truth. He'll be a year younger than her, and honestly, Yukine has felt it coming for a while now. Even before Kasuga steps into view, you can feel his presence, and they immediately ask if he's related to the director. Kasuga's caught off guard, blushes with embarrassment, then admits the director just gave him a tour and apologizes for being a bother, but Yukine shoots back and confirms this is her running route, and honestly it makes sense he's here. He's using that inner eye skill. Kasuga asks if it's bothering her and begs to know if she can keep using this place, and Yukine answers right after. She grins and says she's thrilled, tells him that watching him at training keeps her fired up too, then she decides to take a breather and asks if he wants to chat for a bit. Kasuga nods instantly, telling Yukai that he grinds every single day, training like crazy so he can be as strong as possible before classes even start, and that he's even strapped weights onto his scale end. He boasts he can freely bend this object at will, then shows it off right there by snapping it into totally different shapes. Especially for attacks, Kasuga flips his counter into a comfy sofa and tells Yukine to take a seat. She's stunned by how smoothly he pulls it off, and she can't believe he can still keep it going. Even after all that fighting, the charms keep coming, and Yukine admits she knows that if she were in his spot, her mana would have burned out long ago. Kasuga grins that it feels amazing to get praise from the deputy of the Committee on Morality. Then he lays it out. Everyone in the school worships the three big main committees, Yukine. She's stunned that he even knows it, but he smirks and says his reputation is already famous. So even with all that praise ringing in her ears, she still dips her head and insists there are higher levels to reach. Yukine leans in and asks Taekyodo if he's got another kind of magic in his bones. He admits he can't use radiation magic at all, and then Yukine shows off his water magic affinity. But she lets out just a tiny trickle of water, and then boasts that her body has a special magical constitution. The whole moment screams, "We get each other now." Taekyodo shoots out an apology for not paying more attention, and Yukine just smiles, calm as ever, because she's having an absolute blast. Then it hits him. He gets pumped up, vows to train like crazy and claw his way to the top of the academy, and Yukine just stands there in silence, clearly shaken by what she's seeing. Yukine's eyes lit up at Taekyodo's grit, and she told him, with willpower like that, you could land a spot on one of the three big committees, maybe even a truly important position. Enthralled, he vows he'll do everything it takes to make it happen, and he knows that if he wants to climb to the very top, he'll have to muscle his way into one of those elite groups the most powerful kids in school created. Yukine's getting ready to dive back into training, so she pulls Taekyodo along. He beams and says he'd love to. To get a favor, he drops into a decisive bow and demands what he needs, so she can finally train him to master the smart eye skill, and Yukine's like, wait, are you really sure? Yukine drags Taekyodo to a waterfall for training, and they brace themselves under the roaring water. Then he starts to. Shivering from the cold, he kept grumbling about the temperature like it was out to get him. Meanwhile, Yukine stays razor calm and locked in, steady as a rock, while Taekyodo starts trembling from the cold, itching to get out of here, and totally stuck on what this whole situation is even about. He got completely sidetracked, and Yukine snapped at him like a whip, telling him to wipe his head clear and keep his mana flowing. She has to lock in 100% focus while she trains under that raging waterfall. Yukine tells Taekyodo that once he masters the Eye of Understanding, he'll be able to feel it with his eyes shut tight. This skill lets you feel enemy mana moving like a heartbeat, giving you the upper hand in every fight, and at higher levels you can even see through objects and read the future, but right now, peering through walls is still totally impossible. Taekyodo's still nowhere close. He's freezing, teeth chattering, and he grumbles that comparing skills like some mental game doesn't do a thing for him right now. Yukine snaps at him to sharpen his senses and start feeling the mana with his seventh. Feelings, he tries to follow orders but keeps grumbling that even sensing his own mana is already a nightmare, because nothing like that ever existed in his world, and Yukine snaps back that the seventh sense is the organ that detects mana. Old drain, Taekyor. He promises he'll give it a shot, and she cuts him off. No more whining, just lock in and focus. He's shaking with cold and crumples into despair, realizing he's been stuck under that waterfall for a full hour for nothing. Yukine snaps back, saying he's got it all wrong because you can't master a skill overnight. She's still convinced he'll learn the imaginary eye, and she insists the real secret is simple: never stop believing and keep practicing. Mankind steps in to train with Taekyodo, determined to help him crack the inner eye. Then she reminds him classes aren't started yet, tells him to stay patient, and drops the next detail. This training is her proving ground. She's chasing the same level as her father, the man who could spot a monster's weak points just by touching them. Taekyodo lit up at the idea that the inner eye can spot weak points, and he swears he wants to reach that level too, while Yukine just smiles and confidently nods, saying he remembers exactly what it is. This skill gets taught in 3 savage steps, and he's convinced that with Yukine backing him, he'll crack it in just a few days. When they say, he tells her goodbye, thanking her for all her support, and she just smiles back, "You did it." Taekyodo spots his cloak caked in grime, grumbles that he doesn't have a spare, curses himself for not grabbing more, tosses the dirty cloak into the laundry, and then jumps into a shower. and he claims that only the horny heroes of erotic games or total morons would ever try to spy on someone in the bathroom. He strides up to the door, slams a knock, and calls out, "Is anyone in there?" Saki barges into the kitchen and raves about the breakfast, but the woman, still stuck in the middle of her chores, tells him to wake Hatsumi, and he jumps to it. He scrambles up to her door, pounds on it, yells her name, but when nothing comes back, he freezes for a split second. Kasuki storms in anyway, shrugs it off, calls Hatsumi on the spot, and tells her, straight up, that he's coming in. Noticing she's out cold, he realizes she still hasn't woken up, and Kasuki's stunned, because Hatsumi's sprawled in revealing clothes, desperately trying to hold back her own temptation. She steps in, nudges her awake with a soft touch, and whispers that breakfast is ready, while Kasuki scrambles to cover Hatsumi. When he shows up, that sheet trips him. He stumbles hard, jams in place, and embarrassment floods him. He slips onto the bed beside her, and while she's still fast asleep, she reaches out in her sleep and hugs him tight, so he goes totally silent. He's frozen, stunned, terrified, trapped in this super awkward moment, not even knowing how to escape it. He refuses to wake her, so he tiptoes to slip away, but every move feels wrong. Then he steals a look at her face and realizes how beautiful she is, and his nerves explode even more. Right as he's spiraling, the older sister steps out. She was upstairs, chewing on worry over Kasuka and Hatsumi's delay, and the second she stepped into the room, boom, something totally unexpected hit her. The confusing scene slams them both into panic. Kasuka scrambles to explain, but she's frozen in pure bewilderment and fear. Then the older sister barges into the room. She got the full picture and can't stop smiling. She's sure Kasuki and Hatsumi are madly in love, so she's bursting with happiness while Kasuka scrambles, desperately trying to explain himself. She's fast asleep, dreaming about her mother's cooking. Then the story shifts to a peaceful house after breakfast. Right after they're done eating, her older sister leans in and asks if Kasuka is free, and when he says yes, Kasuka agrees to help with the shopping, but the moment he gets the list, his face scrunches up in pure confusion, because it's baffling. He spots something on it, and Kasuka's like, no way, this list is way too huge for just 3 people. Even if he's just a teenager with an appetite the size of a truck. Then his sister finally tells him why. They're hauling into their new house, and that very night they're throwing a party for the newcomers. Kasuka gets hit with pure surprise, while you can just sit back and watch us in silence. After shopping, Kasuka catches a shock. Ludi actually wants to move for real, and right then his sister throws her arms around him, thanking him for helping, saying the welcome party starts tonight. Then she grabs the moment and turns it into a welcome for him too, because she tells him, you can take this one. He listens closely, and his sister tells him Clarissa, the martial arts master and incredible teacher, can really help Kasuka, and he's just praying they won't run into any awkward vibes. Kasuka tells them that beyond Yukine's advice, he wants even more ideas on how to master skills. Then when his sister finds out he actually met Yukine, her face lights up and she jumps in with a suggestion that Kasuka pulls her aside and invites her to the party, then promises he'll help him train for a while his sister fires right back with, say less, I'll work even harder on the cooking because Ludi and Clarice are already spoiled with delicious food, so when Hatsumi blurts that she wants to do something sweet for Kasuka, Marino springs into action, takes over the kitchen, and orders Hatsumi what to do next. Guard the decorations. Then she calls Kasuga over and murmurs in his ear, telling him to watch Hatsumi the entire time. No reasons given, just as they head off on the trip. On their trip, the maid frets non-stop because Ludi lives under the same roof as a man, even while Hatsumi and Marino are right there beside her. But Ludi steps in, shoots her a reassuring smile, and tells her he's not a bad person, then reminds her he literally risked his life to save them, and he even throws in a joke, Clarice. She worries herself to death. Then, just like that, she spots massive floating buildings rising through. Leaning toward the window, they swear, we're almost there, and then the moment turns serious because they're engaged in a flurry of razor-fast pinpoint strikes. She owns the whole fight, moving with surgical skill, cutting off space and control at every turn while he scrambles to respond and somehow never catches up. Calm as ice, she unleashes pinpoint hits that drop every opponent in her path. Then Takioto slips a lightning strike and gets hit with a compliment, and just when he thinks it's over, another voice chimes in. The punch slammed into the woman's chest, and she jolted in pure shock, while the tension between the fighters kept climbing higher. They stay locked in, tense as steel, until she lands a surgical kick that ends it, and she doesn't flinch, still confident to the bone. She trots over with Takioto's water, and there he is, tired and sprawled on the ground, while another guy grumbles that he lost again. Then she drops the truth: people with a strong purpose don't break. Kyoto thanks her, prays she'll get better fast, then tells him she wants to grow stronger and won't let him pass her, so he grins and says he won't quit either, thinking she's dealing with the same chaos as the main story, and she's determined to force her awakening to happen no matter what. While they trade stories about how fast time slips away, then he remembers he'd already heard it. Princess Hei's daughter is headed to Hanamura's place today, and he's got to bring her in. She just smirks and tells him, "I will." Night falls and they slip into a farewell party. Goodbyes fly, tears burn, and the Hanamura house is buzzing with life. They burst back home and the elves hit them like a wave, so beautiful, so stylish, they make everything else feel plain. He hooks up with Marino and she tells him Liddy-chan and Clarice-chan are about to show up. Kasuki nods like he gets it. Then Ludovine Marie-Ange de la Trèfle finally steps in. She's the Truffle Empire's second princess. She glides in, smiles at everyone, and the whole court welcomes her like a beloved star. Marino and Kasuki watch as Ludovine hands the shawl back to Kasuki, and the moment hangs in the air. She thanks him again, then begs him to call her Ludie, because soon they're going to be classmates. Zuki breathes out in relief, takes the request, and tells her she's already counting down to it. Clarice beams as she finally hooks up with Hatsumi, grinning like, "Wow, it's been forever since we last saw each other." Ever since the last time they saw each other, Hatsumi can't stop grinning because Clarice is totally okay, and Ludovine tells Kasuki that Hatsumi taught Clarice how to use magic, leaving him absolutely stunned. Clarice told everyone she had double the mana of an ordinary person, but she couldn't use a single spell at first. Then Hatsumi taught her how to wield magic, and Hatsumi even praised her hard work while Clarice gets emotional and tells them she's always felt the Hanamura family truly cares about her. Kasuki says he feels the exact same way, and the guard steps in to thank them for. A whole room got set up and a royal courier delivered a message to Ludovica saying, "Don't worry," and just like that, she was pushed forward with renewed encouragement. Make yourself comfy and breathe out. Pretty soon everyone calls for a tea break. The porters shout that their job is done, bid everyone goodbye, and head back to Empire. While everyone else dives into their tea break, Clarissa stays behind, snapping into action to sort out everything that just got hauled in from the carriage. Kasuki can't shake the weird feeling, so he jumps in and offers help, because so much still has to be organized, and Clarice nods right along, ready to do it. She's stunned and grinning like she can't believe her luck until Kasuki insists he'll help Clarice to the house, and she panics, trying to dodge it, but he reaches for the box and lifts it with. The box literally screams caution, and when someone asks what's inside, Clarice's face burns as she blurts out it's her underwear, and insists she can't make her husband handle it. Suki freezes when she realizes he's been carrying Clarissa's underwear, then embarrassment hits hard and she grabs the box herself. He promises her he won't peek, scrambles to soothe her panic, and swears everything's okay. Then Clarice rushes in to apologize for the trouble. Keeping it to himself, Kasuki realizes he's carrying Clarissa's underwear, and panic hits hard as nervous sweat starts pouring down his face. He leads her down the hall to the room, and Clarice beams, smiling like she just won the world, and with cheeks blazing, she thanks him for his attention, and right before he stands, he warns her to watch her step as she heads up. Clarice was terrified that Ludovine might be living with some mystery guy, but when she realized it was Kasuki, her panic instantly eased, until she saw the thing sitting on his back and her shock hit like a punch. There's a look of shock and nervous worry that screams he didn't expect any of this. She spots her panties perched on Kasuki's head and instantly panics, then bursts into a loud scream, demanding to know why it happened. Still not getting it, he stumbles into confusion and tries to rip them off, but Clarissa snaps, "Don't touch them," and stands up too. Totally rattled, she blurts out apologies and admits she managed to messily stain Kasuki's eyes. With despair crushing her, she even thinks about punishing herself for the shame, until Kasuki swoops in, steadies her, and begs her to stop going so far and to stop bowing like that. Right in the middle of the chaos, Kasuki and Clarice tripped and crashed into each other, Kasuki cursing the pain from the fall, while Clarice flushed and embarrassedly reminded him that accidents like this just can't happen. It's happening, and everything stays painfully awkward, stuck in place. Kasuki exhales, finally glad he stopped Clarice from snapping too hard. But while he's scrambling to clean up the mess, she suddenly faints, Right then, Ludovine bursts in, frantic because she heard the noise, and Kasuki flips out when he realizes the stairs are packed full. Scattered laundry sprawls everywhere and he thinks nobody's watching this mess, so Kasuki jumps in and lies it off, claiming they just tripped, insisting everything's okay, all while trying to steady Ludovine and Claris. Still rattled, she can barely piece together what went down, while Kasuki lets out a breath of relief since he actually got everything under control, and Claris drops a sincere apology for freaking everyone out. A fresh guest slips into the house, hands over a gift for the celebration, and thanks them for the invite. Then Marina tells Kisuki that it has to be Yuki's, and the whole room erupts as everyone greets her. Joy bursts through the air as Marino and Yukine beam at everyone, thrilled that they've all shown up, Ludovine. Claris and Kisuki thank everyone for the warm welcome at the Hanamura home, grinning as the festive joy floods the house, then slip into the hall where the welcoming party is dressed up and ready. Yukine jumps in to help, but Marino waves her off. Just relax and have fun, she says. Ari slides into Ludovine's space like a proud little maid, smiles and announces she'll be a brand new student this year, right as Marino bursts out that the food's ready and the whole room erupts with joy. Everyone is stunned by the feast Marino brings in, and she grins as she tells everyone to dig in, eat as much as they want, just like Ludovino. He thanks her for the meal and the whole crowd dives in, then they start raving as they taste it and gush about how insanely delicious it is. Everything looks perfect. Marino's guests take a bite and their faces light up with surprise and pure joy. Ludovine brags that her kingdom's food is even better than the chef's, and Claris's jaw drops while Marino beams with pride, soaking up every compliment like it's a crown. Claris showers Marino with praise, admitting that even though she's sure of her worth as a Treffler household servant, she can't deny she's been outdone, especially by the dish's insane, mind-blowing sauce, so Marino lights up with joy and Mari raises a special wine alongside the dish, and the moment everyone spots that gorgeous color, the whole room gets even more spellbound. Reno pours out a special wine, grins and says she saved it just for moments like this, then makes sure the younger ones get juice too. Riz is blown away. Hatsumi doesn't just crush it in magic, she also whips up cooking like it's her secret power. She's a little shy, but she finally admits she wanted to cook up a surprise for the party too. Kuki blurts that he's never tasted Hatsumi's food. Ludovine beams that she'd love to try it, and Hatsumi freezes, shy and shocked, before quickly stepping in to help with whatever's needed. She tells him, "I'm a knight too, but I'm still a servant, so I'm here to serve," and Kasuki wastes no time. He immediately presses Claris about whether she can really swing a sword. She teaches too, so he tells her straight up. He wants to learn the technique, but he's sure it'll take way too much time. Claris pauses for a heartbeat, racking her brain for any clue that might finally crack the case. Morris says new skills only pop up when your hunger for them gets unbearable, and yeah, she felt that same spark too. I hope you had fun with this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. They claim this hits harder for Kasuki since his body is so messed up, and they awkwardly drag in a comparison to a founding saint who couldn't use distant magic either. Ludovine can't believe the coincidence. Kasuki realizes he'll need to stay one step ahead and use his powers like weapons to climb to the top. Then Clarissa jumps in, saying her fighting style has been totally remade after she got those cert. Before magic entered her life, she swung swords and loosed arrows. Then everything changed, because after training in magic, she started battling with a magical sword and shield spells. Kasuki admits he hasn't picked his go-to weapon yet, and Clarissa fires back that mastering multiple skills gives him tons of options, and it'll help him big time. That's perfect. She offers real advice and even teaches him lessons, and Kasuki practically exhales with relief, thrilled that her and Yukine have his back, while Marino and Claris cheers loudly as they happily drink together. Claris looks totally confused and weirdly happy, while Kasuki blurts out that they've already had more than enough to drink. They crack open another bottle and the whole group instantly loosens up, laughing as she pitches a fun game for so everyone can join in and forge stronger bonds. Marino, already a little tipsy from the wine, decides that everyone will. They jump into the royal game, snatching up the sticks with hungry excitement. Then Kasuki's nerves hit like a wave as she realizes just how far she's changed, while Ludovine and Hats. I can't help asking what kind of game this is, and Kasuki tells me, the king's game is a party game where everyone must obey the king's orders. That hits Ludovine like a gut punch because it sounds way too much like a punishment, and Marino steps in as the first king, immediately ordering whoever draws next. First, you're gonna give her a shoulder massage to melt that tension. No shame in it at all. Then Kasuki yanks out stick number 1, and at last he rubs Marina's shoulders and she hums with satisfaction, like they've found the exact right place. He's convinced the real winner was her, and soon Marino pushes the group to run it back, while Kasuki is just terrified of ending up stuck as king next time. Kasuki pulls out the royal scepter and nerves slam into him, because he remembers those usual game commands and they're brutally embarrassing. With the spotlight crushing his chest, he scrambles to spice things up by picking the standard team, then immediately regrets it when Ludovic, stick in hand, declares that player number 3 has to rip off a piece of clothing. Everyone is stunned by her outfit, then Clarice, totally wasted, stumbles up and yells that she's taking it. She stripped down for Ludovico, fearless and ready for anything, then right after that she gets. She's painfully shy about admitting it. Yeah, as a woman, she's holding back and reluctant to say the truth. Kasuki can only stare at what's left and realize the alcohol is officially all gone. Renault begs Yuki to stay the night, but she grabs her coat and chooses to head back. She heads home and thanks her for the offer, and while she's going, Kasuki jumps in like, "Don't worry, I'll keep you company." Meanwhile, Ludovic and Clarice kick back and gush about how awesome the party was. Then, over a warm cup of tea, they slide into a talk about cleaning. Hatsumi snaps everyone's attention to her and yanks them to a stop, popping in to grin that she's finally done cooking and begging everyone to taste her dish before the party ends. The food starts glowing like something alive and the whole group freaks out. Kisuki wears a tense face, tries to politely refuse it, and has no clue what that glowing thing even is. The night boat slices through the dark water, slips beneath the glowing bridge, and fireworks roar overhead, turning everything into a jaw-dropping, luxury-level celebration at its absolute peak. Kasuki's stunned so hard he grabs on for dear life after tasting Hatsumi's weird dish, while Marino erupts, screaming at everyone to hold on. In the end, the group cheers because Ludovic finally eats with zero trouble, but Kasuki's dizziness hits hard. He swears the city lights are floating in front of him, so he drops down to lie still, and the others react with worried smiles while Clarice pushes his training into overdrive. Marino and Kasuki Cyrillic letter 456 got hit with a shocking twist when the sword and shield showed up, and Kasuki Cyrillic letter 456 SRZU praised her raw strength. Morno can't hide his shock seeing his talent firsthand, even though it's the first time he's ever swung that sword, so he takes it in and Clara lights up with a grin. "Yeah, you've got a real gift." Ruki can't sit still, he's pumped to dive into the dungeon and level up, but Marino and Clarice hit the brakes and tell him he has to wait for classes to start to get permission, hammering home that Kasuki knows he's got to nail the basics and build his stamina, so he can't wait to jump in, and as he does, he gets hit with a wave of nostalgia, remembering the game's expansions and special dungeons, especially those April Fool's events and the exclusive shop. They swore some bonus dungeons were brutal and you could practically feel the pity for the heroines trapped in them, and Kasuki only regrets one thing: she had to buy the same game 5 times. Wading through a dull system where every store locked you into just one exclusive version despite him getting the digital and special editions straight from the developer, until he finally realized that no amount. Kasuki can still feel the nightmare. No matter how hard he tried, the cash never stretched far enough for those purchases, and then the stores hit him with exclusive bonuses he couldn't afford to chase. Showing up in every wild variation, hugging pillows, wall panels, autographed cards, posters, postcards, even special audio recordings, and he starts laughing at his own screw-up as the memory hits him. Kasuki tried everything while the wait dragged on, but the items still showed up just like always, and somehow that stress turned into this wild, nostalgic spark. Then he blurts out that after mastering mana enhancement, he can't stop thinking about what to learn next. Marino clocked his interest and swooped in, pitching a gift magic idea, then even hauled out a book from the library just to prove she'd thought of him. Everything he could use to level up his studies, Kasuki practically lit up when he learned the spell that lets you pass mana to another person, right alongside restoration and enhancement magic. Magic hits him and he's like, "I've got to learn this," so he channels his huge mana, studies the technique hard, and then powers up his companions fast, convinced they'll be ready to fight. He charges into every challenge with zero nerves, steadying the group as their MP source, and when Kasuki picks up the new spell, he learns it so fast it makes him feel. It slams straight into his mind, and everyone's left staring as his power rockets upward faster than anyone can blink. Meanwhile, Lydia is training too. Hatsumi is drilling her on how to slash the length of her magical spells, and you can feel the whole crew hungry to level up. Hatsumi tells them cutting down the time is the key to casting way stronger spells, then praises Liddy, bragging that her talent will make her stronger fast, right as Liddy demands the training be brutally intense. Hatsumi's strict training thrills her, but Kasuki can't shake the worry that Liddy might not last, because Hatsumi's drills are brutally tough and Liddy's about to face the breaking point. Bone-tired and gasping, she drops onto the ground after that brutal workout and starts to quietly break down in tears. She never expected Hatsumi's training to be this brutal. Now Ludi's sprawled on the couch, completely wiped out, and groans that her mana is almost gone and she can't get up as she turns to. Suki begs him for help, and the second he sees how bad she's hurting, worry claws at him. Then he stops and remembers the magic of sacrifice, the kind that can transfer mana. Ludi squirms and sweats, grumbling that he wants a bath because he feels gross and sticky, while Kasuki blazes in with donation magic, telling him it'll refill Ludi's mana and boost his magic level so he'll pull off that sweet 2 birds, 1 stone move he missed before. He just learned that spell and Liddy's jaw drops. Kasuki actually has this kind of magic. Then he remembers trying it on Claris, but he can't tell if it truly worked since Claris started trembling and acting totally out of character. Strangely, she insists she'll never let him down. Liddy says Marino and Hatsumi are tied up. Claris isn't around, so Kasuki is all she's got right now, and she agrees to help him drill his moves. Kasuki blurts out that transferring mana takes direct skin contact, and it makes him burn with embarrassment. So he asks Liddy where he's allowed to touch, while Liddy blushes right along with him. She reaches out and grabs his hand, and just like that, the chaos inside him melts away. He thanks her like she's a lifesaver, and suddenly she's his go-to plan. But when Kasuki takes Ludi's hand, his nerves go through the roof. She clocks the details, the gentle, pale hand, the faintly pink fingertips, the slight sheen of sweat, and Liddy's like, wait, that's it, because she swears it looks like any ordinary hand, but then it starts to blush, the tension snaps tighter, their heartbeats race, and the air between them gets painfully awkward. Kasuki's cheeks burned as he admitted he'd gushed over Ludi's hand way too hard, blurted out an apology, and confessed he got carried away like it was some kind of game, while Ludi, still blushing, snapped, then start already, because they squirm under those stares and toss out a joke, if Claris catches us, it's over. So Kasuki snaps into action, grips her hand hard, and keeps the spell going. He starts using mana transfer magic, locks onto the leftover mana of Ludi like a target, then channels his own mana straight to her, guiding it with pure focus in his mind. He says it sounds easy, but controlling it is brutal. Send too much and the mana explodes into the air, send too little and it won't do a thing, yet somehow he still manages to. Mana keeps streaming steady, fueled by one goal, getting Liddy back on her feet. Kasuki immediately leans in and asks how she feels after the transfer, and Liddy answers. He's torn, but to help even more, he cranks up the flow, and the second he does, Liddy shoots into action. A wild wave of mania rips through her body, making her shake in pure shock. Liddy jolts back in terror, clamps a hand to her chest, gasps, and realizes with dizzy fear that this feels deadly, like something is seriously, clearly wrong. Her body jumped on instinct as she tried to piece it all together, and Kasuki fumbled through a nervous explanation, scrambling to make her understand. He insists he never meant to do any of it, and Ludi, still jittery with worry, decides to hand him another shot. She lets him grab her hand one more time, and as Kasuki takes a deep breath, he swears he'll lock in and properly control the mana flow. Kasuki scrambles to keep the mana transfer spell going, but Ludi's right there, so close it rattles him, and he's terrified of every twitch of her reaction. Who breaks into a nervous sweat and lets out a shy little moan from the magical warmth, convinced nothing will happen, while his heart hammers like a drum. Lydia blushes and grumbles that it's getting way too hot, and Kasuki shoots her a look, telling her not to make those provocative sounds while it's happening. Then he reassures her. She hauled herself to her feet, insisting she'd recovered enough to stand, but she needed a little more time to fully heal, while he struggled to focus. This will totally work, and even the comments are buzzing that he's right on the edge of leveling up too, so calm down. He vows to throw everything he's got into making the whole process as smooth and simple as humanly possible. Kasuki practically begs her to let him try the spell one more time, swearing it'll work this round and promising it'll be quick. Ludi admits he wants to get stronger, then nods and finally lets out a calm breath, "Don't worry," while Kasuki erupts with joy, thanking her over and over for giving her the chance.